Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to go through chapter 139 and talk about why I didn't like it, and why in my opinion it's a terrible end to the series. If you haven't already, check out my rant I did after I finished reading the chapter, even if just for the comments. It kinda blew up, and the comments are hilarious. I love the passion. Before we begin, I want to preface that I get into stories for my own enjoyment, and that is the lens I talk through things about on this channel. Sometimes it'll match up with you, and other times it won't, but every time I can assure you it'll always be my opinion I'm sharing. Let's get right into it. The chapter begins with a young Eren and a young Armin talking with each other by the canal of what looks to be their hometown, as if it was just any other day before the fall of Walla Maria. Eren, through Armin asking questions, outlines his entire plan. Push away his friends and make them to heroes by having them kill humanity's greatest threat, himself. After, of course, killing 80% of humanity to ensure the world doesn't immediately retaliate against Paradise. They switch locations and Eren tells Armin about Ymir, how despite having her hometown burned, her parents killed, and her tongue pulled out, that she loved the original King Fritz and continued to love him after her death 2,000 years later. It's explained the only one who can free Ymir from the agony of love is Mikasa. Eren doesn't know why it has to be Mikasa, but everything he's doing is to get to that point where Mikasa makes her choice, which we as the reader know is the decision to kill Eren. Eren tells Armin that everything was for that moment and that he didn't even know if his friends would survive the ordeal. He mentions that the past and future all exist at the same time for him because of the founder, and as a result, he sent the pure Titan Dina towards his own mother to save Bertolt, because according to him, it wasn't Bertolt's time to die yet. The scene transitions one final time to the ocean where Eren and Armin talk about Mikasa. Armin beats into Eren how much Mikasa loves him, and as a result, Eren starts crying that he wants Mikasa to only think about him and be the only man she thinks about for years to come. Eren says he doesn't want to die and that he wants to be with Mikasa, but because he'll never be forgiven, he has to die. The scene finishes off with him saying he doesn't know why he wanted to do the rumbling, and erases Armin's memory of this conversation, only to be restored upon his death. Their last interaction is Armin saying he won't let Eren's sacrifice go to waste, while Eren tells Armin humanity will be saved by him. One of the first videos on my channel is a video I made called Why is Eren Yeager So Compelling? And in that video I talk about all the reasons why somebody could get invested in the story just because of Eren Yeager. And for me, that's how I enjoy stories. I can grow to love the world, I can grow to love the other characters, but when I get into a story, when I truly enjoy it, it's because I'm following and empathizing with the main character. In Eren's case, I fell in love with him almost immediately. He was a character that was not content to live behind the walls and just wanted to be free. He lost his mother almost immediately, and you can empathize with his rage, and now, you invest into his journey. It's great. It's emotional, and there are a lot of twists and turns. There is a natural progression of his character, as well as the way the world unfolds. You have him going through so many character arcs. Does he rely on his own power? Does he rely on others? Is he special? Is he not? All of these things have meaning, or they did before this final chapter. These sets of scenes completely destroy my enjoyment of his character, and I truly believe that it completely ruined his character arc. While this is the twist of the chapter, that Eren was a slave to destiny the entire time, I think that's just bad. It makes everything that came before meaningless. Him being upset at his mother dying, well, that was him. Him saying, Reiner, why did my mom have to die? That was him. Every tough decision amounts to just a predetermined path. Why did you do the rumbling? I don't know. I just don't find that enjoyable whatsoever. At first you can go and laugh and say, hey, he killed his mom, his dad, 80% of humanity, led to his brother's death, all just to save his friends, but then Eren himself admits that he didn't even know his friends would survive till the end. If he doesn't know that, then it means he doesn't know how Paradise will end up at the end. So why is he doing this? To end a Titan curse? At the expense of his friends that he says he cares most about in the world? To me, it just doesn't make sense. It just essentially puts Eren on a path that doesn't give him his own reasons. He basically becomes a character that is stuck in this deterministic, straight line, and then he just gives himself reasons why he's doing what he's doing. I'm going forward, but I'm doing it because I'm saving my friends. I'm doing it because I love Mikasa, which, by the way, there are almost no interactions with Mikasa in a romantic way throughout the entire series. Most of the interactions, and you can go back and read it, Wit did its best to, ship them really well in the anime, but go back and read the manga, and look how Eren treats Mikasa. He is annoyed, he does not like being babied, and essentially, not saying that he doesn't love her, but it always came across as, as a mom or a sister. There are maybe one or two interactions in the manga that could be seen as romantic from Eren's side. When he asks Mikasa, what does she think of him? as well as when he, saves both of them by punching Dina. But again, he didn't know they were going to be saved, and at the very last moment, it isn't like he confessed to Mikasa his love. And if you can twist that, hey, what do you think about me as Eren liking him, it could be just curious to see if Mikasa sees him more than family, just out of curiosity's sake. You can interpret it as you will. What I'm saying is, him basically breaking down in tears and saying, I don't want to see Mikasa with another man when there hasn't been enough built up throughout the story, that's just bad. I am telling you, if you reread the manga, there is more between Eren and Historia than there is with Eren and Mikasa. I wouldn't even care, I did ship Eren and Historia together because I thought they complemented each other's characters well, like they actually made each other better characters. But if he ended up with Mikasa, I don't care. Just don't destroy his character arc. By making him just a slave to destiny, you might try to make some sort of, some point where, man, we're all a slave to something. There's no such thing as true freedom. It's been a ruse. But at the result, you ruined at least my enjoyment of the rest of the whole story. Every cool line, every single moment Eren had, it has no meaning anymore to me. Am I supposed to get excited when Eren says I keep moving forward until all my enemies are destroyed? No, why would I? Why would I? He didn't. He didn't keep moving forward. Am I supposed to be, hyped that Eren cares so much about living and he's, fighting against Zeke when he says, because I was born into this world? No, he gave up and died. The moment he realized that he won't be forgiven for his crimes, for his genocide, he's like, well, nobody wants me alive anyway, I guess I'll just die. Everything Eren said ends up being a lie. And maybe that's the intended purpose of the writing, that, hey, but if that is the intended purpose, I don't care. I literally do not care. You can explain to me the deeper meaning of everything, but I don't find it enjoyable. And I won't find it enjoyable on a reread, because like I said, the number one thing I wanted from this story is not for whatever happens to Eren at the end, to not invalidate everything that came before. That is my number one thing. I have videos documenting it. I don't care if Eren lives or dies. I don't care if he ends up with Historia or Mikasa. I don't care if he's the father. I don't care if he's pulling a Lelouch or whatever else, alternate universe. The one thing I wanted from the story is for whatever happens in the last chapter, for him to not invalidate everything that came before. And I feel that it did. Every single moment, it has no meaning. Because if he can actually control Dina, right, why didn't she just eat Berthold? Are you worried about Armin? Well, Berthold won't be there to burn Armin because Dina would have the powers. And if Dina has the powers, then Grisha has the founding titan. And she has royal blood. Why isn't that a possible timeline? Why wasn't that explored? But the moment you introduce these time travel elements where you can control the past or control the future, and you don't actually go through with it, right? There's a reason time travel stories get looked down by communities. Personally, for me, I love that element. I love the literary element of exploring alternate universes, how actions and butterfly effects and time travel. I love that stuff. But it has to be done right. It has to be done well. And by introducing that into the story, you just leave room for plot holes and unanswered questions, which is exactly what happens here. If time is linear, why does he have to be the one to direct Dina towards his mom? And if time isn't linear, then he didn't need to do that in the first place. I'm telling you, create these scenarios where it's just dumb. It's just dumb. On top of Eren directing towards his mom, you guys can say, hey, he needed it to motivate him. But that goes against Eren from what we knew before this chapter, that his mom loved him unconditionally, that he's already special because he was born to this world. Eren knows that. When he's doing the rumbling, he thinks of his mother and what she would think of him. Before this chapter, what his mom thought meant the world to him. And then she's just an acceptable sacrifice on his path to free Ymir, that he doesn't even know what she truly wants. And it's not even explained to the reader what Ymir truly wants, just that only Ymir knows, and that she chose Mikasa. We can infer why she chose Mikasa, right? Mikasa unconditionally loves Eren, and by choosing to kill him, Ymir realizes that you can love somebody and move on from them. It's just so stupid. And we'll get more into Ymir and Hallucigenia and what happens to them when we look at the next set of pages. But honestly, I could make an entire video of how Eren's character is wrecked. I'm telling you that maybe you can try to appreciate it from a writing standpoint, that the character we thought Eren was, he actually wasn't. But I am telling you that I don't find that enjoyable. I thought the themes and narratives that were already attached to him were plenty enjoyable enough, and they fit the story much better. I'll get more into it later, but if my number one thing is a character arc and its progression and not invalidating what came before, if that's my number one reason for enjoying something, my second reason would be when an author introduces themes and, narratives and, puts questions out to the reader, like the cycle of hatred, the concept of freedom, and so on, that they actually provide you a satisfying position, their take or solution on it. I'm not saying Isayama didn't provide a position, but I do think it was really weak, and I'll get more into it at the end of the video. I want to move on to the next set of pages, but I do want to say that I have so much more I could talk about Eren. I didn't like the exposition dump. I think there's just too much. It felt really rushed. I didn't like what they did with Ymir's character, and I actually might come back to that when I talk about Historia. But let's move on for now. The worm is gone and the Titan curse is broken. Everyone remembers a conversation that apparently they all had with Eren that was erased. The Alliance are all in tears, realizing Eren's sacrifice. Levi sees the scouts that gave up their lives in dissipating steam, and they salute each other. The Alliance all have heartfelt reunions with their loved ones, while Mikasa leaves to give Eren a proper burial. Guns are pointed at the Eldians, but Armin convinces them to stand down. I actually felt a lot of emotion in this scene as everyone said goodbye to Eren in their own way, being thankful for his sacrifice, on top of Levi dedicating his heart to the scouts of the past, with a tear in his eye. It's a truly emotional moment in the chapter, and I felt it. It's always nice when a story makes you feel, but it's not enough to compensate for everything else. The worm disappears off-screen, and really just cementing it as pointless to the story. It appears in 138, and disappears off-screen between chapters. Its sole purpose was almost emotional manipulation in the previous chapter when it turned everybody into Titans. And this chapter, everybody just turns back. If you're reading the story chapter to chapter, not once every month, you will read and see almost the entire last chapter, besides Mikasa's part, dedicated to everybody having a family reunion, saying goodbye to each other when they all turn, and everybody almost dying. And instead of this chapter, right after Eren and Armin's scene, everybody's back. It's pointless to the scene. It was just emotional manipulation. The worm is useless. I really do not understand its point to the series. It disappears off screen along with Ymir. I guess it was attached to the curse and just goes away, and you're supposed to accept that. There's no climactic fight. And you might say, hey, everybody fighting Eren at the end is climactic. No, to me, the fact that Eren was sleeping the entire time and basically a husk of himself, there was nothing climactic about that. They essentially just fought a giant, unfeeling monster, and Deus Ex Machina'd their way into a win. Honestly, chapter 138 can be deleted and everything stays the same between 137 and 139. You might be saying, hey, Mikasa's part was important. It convinced her to kill Eren. Well, Eren was dead at the end of 137. He was brought back for 138 just to be killed again, to complete Mikasa's arc and make freeing Ymir from the curse make sense, as much as it could be. But the point still stands that Eren died at 137 supposedly, and then he died again at 138. And that's where the chapter continues from the present, right after his death. It's actually a good time to bring it up, since I didn't bring it up earlier, that Eren amounts to being just a plot device for the story that was used to boost other characters, which is actually really funny considering Isayama had a review where he said he hates characters like that. So it's pretty ironic, and you can see why a lot of fans are in disbelief and are hoping for an anime-only ending. And it's true. When you make a character that is a slave to destiny, that is following determinism, in terms of a story, they're just a plot device, and no longer really a character. Anyways, the chapter ends with Armin, as usual, talking his way out of a bad situation. You could say that's a persisting theme, but honestly, it gets tired after some time, just Armin talking to everybody. I'm still never going to let down Zeke being Taka no Jutsu'd after spending probably hundreds of years in paths and his life beforehand, and having Armin change his mind. So stupid. Emotional couple of scenes, but ultimately I don't feel it was earned, especially the way the previous chapters went down and how we got here. That's obviously a personal opinion, and you're free to feel whatever it is you guys feel. Just like the previous pages I talked about earlier with Eren and Armin, everything just feels rushed. That's going to be a big theme talking about this chapter, is just how rushed it is, that even if you enjoy the way the themes, narrative, plot points, characters are portrayed, that even if you enjoy those, for whatever reason, your own reasons, it's still rushed. It is really rushed. Alright, let's go on. Let's go on to the next set of pages. 3 years have passed. Historia is a child, and there's a man approaching from behind we can assume is the father. Eldia is controlled by the Jaegerists. headed by Historia, and are focusing on building up their military, fearful of retaliation. Historia in her letter admits that Eren may be right, that the fight will not end until either Eldiot or the world disappears, and that he left the world without Titans in their hands. The Alliance are now ambassadors for peace for the other nations, and talks with Eldia, and are not sure how that will go. But they have to try anyway, and try to go for peace. The chapter ends with a sad Mikasa sitting over Eren's grave, wanting to see him again, when a bird appears and wraps her scarf around her. And that's the end of the story. Well, we can say that Eren was not the father. On top of the earlier desperate feelings for Mikasa, clearly Historia here is with a man celebrating a birthday. We can assume to be the farmer, and that's their child. I want to take a moment to talk about female characters and romance in this story. Historia's daughter is fathered by the guy who used to throw stones at her. Mikasa is doomed to love Eren forever, even though he appeared to reject all her advances before. Ymir never stopped loving the abusive King Fritz, and then Annie, 4 years in the crystal, and she manages to love Armin. What's the messaging here? Stockholm Syndrome and love. Name a better or more iconic duo. Though, I have read that Stockholm Syndrome has been debunked. So, you guys can look that up and verify. And you can't, of course, forget the Alliance, who gets a nice happy ending. Reiner gets to sniff the handwriting of women guilt-free, even though he led to the death of 200,000 people. Annie, who killed people by swinging them around as a yo-yo, killed a bunch of named characters of the squad Levi and a bunch of the scouts, top of her role in killing 20% of Paradise's population, on top of saying she doesn't regret anything and she would do it all over again after she exited the crystal. Connie gets his mom back. Jean is going to try to pick up Mikasa. Armin going to try to save the world with his talking. Gabby and Falco together getting to push Levi around in a wheelchair. Good stuff, good stuff. Meanwhile, Paradise gets to get ready for war by a fascist government. 20% of the population of the world is left. Eldians number at 1 million people. And if you try to use the numbers of the world's population from 1900 as a basis, 20% would be about 400 million people. So the rest of the world versus the 1 million people of Paradise. And Paradise is also behind in technology. If you remember, it would have taken them 50 years to catch up to the rest of the world. So, yeah, they're left to their own devices. And this is the best part, or not really, being sarcastic, is it's not even an implied peace ending. There's no implication that all these actions led to peace. The Alliance doesn't know if they're going to be in peace. In fact, they're still at war. You're having peace talks because there are hostilities or at war. So there's an open-ended, non-peace ending that leaves Paradise in a worse place than they started the story in. I mean, it's better than, where they started after the time skip when the whole world was about to invade. But now they're just, I guess the odds have been even because it's better to have everybody die fighting with casualties on both sides forever rather than one side being completely wiped out. And the other thing is, the only reason this is made possible is because of the genocide of 80% of the world. So regardless of how you spin it, the only way peace is achieved is through genocide. That is a really, really great message. I don't care how you spin it. They were ready to invade Paradise. The only way this peace, even peace talks, can be possible is because of genocide. I'm not sure if that's good messaging here. I think there are a lot of better options this could have ended in. Honestly, even an implied peace ending, even if it would have been temporary or something, I don't know, would have been better than what we got. This is what I mentioned earlier, where certain topics and themes like the cycle of hatred is introduced, but it's not resolved, not even temporarily. It's like you put a bunch of things like, hey, here's everything that's wrong with the world, and it's always going to be wrong. I, as an author, I don't have an opinion on it. My opinion is everything stays the same. That's just a cheap cop-out. What's the point of introducing these big, heavy themes, narratives that persist throughout the story if you're not going to do anything with them, if you're not going to offer your own solution, your own opinion, your own take on it? If Eren had killed the entire world and then went back, or even died, at least that's some sort of thing you're offering. It makes you think about maybe pushing one side too far, about the majority versus the minority. And, what's worth more? The lives of the few or lives of the many? Are they worth equal? The, different races? There were so many questions, so many philosophical questions, and none of them get answered. Essentially, is humanity is always going to fight. That's my take on the story. Same thing that the story started with. is what the story ends with. There's no narrative growth. There's no author commentary besides the easy, everything stays the same. Except Eren's character. Wait, that also stays the same. There's no point to the story. It offers no concrete messaging about anything. The character arc of the main character is made redundant. And there's nothing to take from it. It's a waste. It's a giant waste of time. And this is why I don't enjoy it. I felt like my time wasn't respected. What am I supposed to get out of it? Genocide can lead to peace? That we're all a slave to something? Like, these are such shallow messaging, and I don't like it. It impacted my enjoyment of the series by a lot. The final scene in the story is, a little bit emotional with Mikasa and the bird. What are you supposed to assume? That Eren is the bird, or just a random bird came at the right time and helped Mikasa out? Your main character ends up as a bird, or you just have to believe, what's it called, that bird represents... Dude, it's so stupid. It's so shallow. It's so, pseudo-intellectual. I'm glad people enjoy this. I am glad, and it's more than I originally thought. I'm glad you guys feel something from it, but man, this story just is bad, dude. It's worse than Game of Thrones. What is fucking Armin's going on about? He's, who has a better story than Bran the Broken? Who has a better story than us? Let's tell him our story. It's the same thing. This is the Game of Thrones ending. Except Game of Thrones, had multiple seasons until it got bad. The writing Game of Thrones fell off at season 5. By season 6, it's whatever. And then at that point, when I was watching the series, I'm just enjoying it for what it became, just a popcorn flick. But season 8 was so terrible that even with terrible writing of the later seasons, it managed to somehow surpass and destroy every character. Well, this destroyed everybody in one chapter. Game of Thrones did it over a long period of time, and then finished it off with the final season. This destroyed everybody in one fucking chapter. It's so bad. On top of just this exposition dump to justify a Lelouch ending, at least Lelouch made all his decisions by himself. Eren, I don't know. I just have to follow my destiny. Blah, blah. Yo, get out of here, man. It's fucking stupid. I can go further and continue to nitpick every single part of this chapter. There are so many things you could nitpick. But I wanted to give you a reason why I think it failed to deliver, at least in my eyes, that impacted my enjoyment. If you want, I can go and nitpick. How did Mikasa know Eren was in the mouth? That has never been presented anywhere in the series before that moment. How did she know he was in the mouth? How did she get there so easily? Basically the fight finished the moment Mikasa got resolved. How stupid is that? What about all the Colossal Titans? Titans have been known to be humans. Why did when all the Colossal Titans disappear, there weren't humans in their place? What about all the time travel thing you could do with... You could just keep nitpicking at all the plot. But there's no point. The main themes and what they did to the characters is enough to make me not enjoy it, rather than the actual story logic and world logic that's been built up throughout the entire series. Nothing was accomplished. The story started off in war, it's going to end in war. What a bad message, man. I don't like it. Like I said, you offer something up other than what is the basis. It's so easy to say things are always going to be the same. That is such lazy writing, lazy messaging. I'm going to wrap this up by reading a comment I saw that fully expresses how I feel. Eren didn't bring peace to paradise. They're gearing up for war with the rest of the world, who are represented by the Alliance. Any sort of resolution has been left completely open. Some may find that fitting, but I see that as very disappointing, as one of the main conflicts of the series didn't even receive a temporary resolution, but that's nowhere near the worst part of the chapter. Eren's character has been absolutely butchered. First of all, he didn't complete any of his objectives. He didn't guarantee Paradise's safety, he endangered the friends he wanted to keep alive, caused Hanji's and Sasha's deaths, and most importantly, his most fundamental traits, his desire for freedom and urge to fight, aren't even his to begin with, it seems. Eren wonders why he wanted the rumbling, and he thinks back to his birth when Grisha tells him he's free, and his eyes start to glow. These panels, along with his comment on him following the path that leads Ymir to Mikasa, implies everything about him is manufactured, which kills so much of his agency and responsibility. This is compounded with everyone thanking him for committing his genocide, especially fucking Armin of all people. Obviously, Chadron was a meme, anyone with 2 brain cells would be able to put that together, but Hobo Eren has so many scenes where he is being honest, rational, and self-aware. His speeches to Falco and Reiner strongly imply fully understanding of everything, which makes his resolve that much stronger. Now it turns out he was a slave all along. And when has he expressed any romantic love towards Mikasa, especially to this level? The only romantic scene was the scarf scene, and he never brings it up again. Hell, he never brings up that scene in 123 again either, but apparently he really wanted to run away with her then. You'd think that scene would show up in his memory shards if it was that serious. His incel scene cam comes out of absolutely nowhere and buries his character down another 6 feet. Ymir's Stockholm Syndrome is obvious, but her actions are anything but. When asked about her real motivations, all we get is, I don't know, or no one can understand her. Doesn't that seem like a cop-out to you? Also, we have no idea what her actions in 137 mean, and how it relates to what we know of her now. She's a plot device that acts in contradictory ways, when with how much power she has, only having vague and superficial explanations is horribly disappointing. As for Eren killing his mom, it's implied he couldn't control his power, which is why Dina was redirected towards her from Bertholdt. It doesn't sound like he did that on purpose at all, so why didn't he try to fix it later? Obviously would have failed, but the founder isn't restricted by time, so you'd think he'd try to control Dina again and again, because it's his mom. But oh wait, apparently Eren's resolve was just manufactured to get Ymir to Mikasa, so I guess he'll just have to give up without a fight now. Problem is, we were only exposed to Eren's headspace during rare moments, and it was mostly when he was fighting. There was no build up to this plot twist, and at this point, all it does is render Eren as a plot device rather than the character. So you try to make a point that Eren was a slave all along by putting him on goddamn automation? No, that butchers his character, butchers all the main themes of the narrative, makes the entire thing a giant waste of goddamn time. Is it good writing? Everything the main character stood for, all the themes of the series that have been built up alongside this character throughout every arc and served as the foundation of the story, collapsed into nothing just for the sake of dramatic irony? All his agency, ideologies, motivations, the driving forces of the series, rendered weightless and incoherent just for some cheap gotcha moment at the literal final chapter? Yeah, that's horseshit. Especially the freedom from death line, whatever sort of nihilistic bullshit is that. The series has explicitly cited death as lack of freedom on several occasions, and 137 is very on the nose about Isayama's stance on that ideology anyway. You've had to be reading with your eyes closed to get that idea from this series. And again, there isn't a single moment that can be construed as romantic between Eren and Mikasa throughout the entire series, save for the question in 123. Contrary to popular belief, the scarf scene wasn't romantic at all from Eren's point of view, but it was him inspiring her to not give up hope, to keep fighting even when all is lost. And to add on to that, there are clear disgusting parallels between Eren and Mikasa and Fritz and Ymir. Freedom from being born into this world, ensuring newer generations don't inherit the problems of the past, are 2 of the major themes of the story that are tied to Eren, and both are completely shit-on by this ending. The former is thrown away by Eren being Ymir's puppet the whole time, and the latter doesn't hold up either as Paradise inherits his fight when he swore to end it himself. To further get rid of the notion that death is freedom, let's use Hanji as an example. It wasn't death that freed her, but voluntarily letting go of her burden. She was constrained by her role as a Survey Corps leader, and by letting go, she became free again and sacrificed herself. Same with Erwin. He let go of his dream, became free of his burden, and voluntarily sacrificed himself. Sure, both of these characters die, but that's not what they become. Sure, both of these characters die, but that's not when they became free. They achieved freedom when they let go of their burdens. But what did Eren let go of? His inherent desire to rumble? That wasn't something he voluntarily let go of. Ymir just gave up control over him since Mikasa was on the way. That's the main problem with this ending. Eren doesn't make a conscious decision to let go of anything and be free. He's controlled by an external force the entire way through that just lets him go. This kills all of the weight behind his arc, and that is the crux of what I find disappointing. So to quickly summarize my feelings, Eren's character was wasted. The narratives and themes were wasted. I feel the entire journey was pointless, and I didn't like it. And that's why I hated the ending, even though some of you guys might like it. You might feel a lot of emotion through the story and emotion ending, and feel that is enough for you. It wasn't enough for me. I understand where a lot of you guys are coming from. Like I said, I gave acknowledgement to where the scenes are emotional, but that's not enough for me, and it's enough for me to not like it. I'm going to do a review video of the whole series, but spoiler alert, I would think overall the series is a 7 out of 10 for me. I think the last 3 chapters took the series from a 10 out of 10 easy, one of the best stories ever written, to 7 out of 10. I think it's worth one read one time, but it's nothing special and it doesn't change anything. There's no greater, larger commentary or cultural impact from this story. Appreciate you taking the time to watch this, getting to the end. If you enjoy the content, like, comment, subscribe. You'll always get me speaking my mind, regardless of how unpopular it is. Like, seriously, check out that rant video. There are a lot of mad people there. But the comments are hilarious. I love you guys who are supportive. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll see you guys next video.